Temperature as if you
Cool. Okay, so we gonna do some exam prep. Then tomorrow we will again continue that with that, and then on Saturday we will do more exam prep, and then hopefully we can squeeze in a session on Monday as well, so that we just get most of the time before you guys write the exams. Okay, so let's start tonight's session. So again, a mixed bag of questions, but also please, I think I said it last time as well. Please post any questions. I've seen there was one or two questions that I will add in tomorrow's session on the WhatsApp group. But please, you can, if you have any other questions from previous assignments, from the mock exam, from other question papers that you guys want us to work through, please send it on the WhatsApp group, and I will put it into a presentation tomorrow, and in the presentation for Saturday as well. Okay, so let's get going. The first one, we're looking at net present value. This one, they say the net present value of a beautiful people shop. They give us the value. Then they tell us we will need to work out the profitability index, or actually they give us the profitability index, and then we will need to work out what is the initial investment that is made. So basically the important thing here is to write down how does the profitability index, what's the formula for that. So that is your profitability index is your net present value plus that original payment or original investment divided by your original investment. So let's complete a few things. Let's substitute. So we've got the profitability index of 1,034. We've got the net present value of 14983, and then we can make the original investment the value of X. Okay, so this is then how the formula will look like. Then we will use the algebra. So first need to get rid of X. So how we get rid of X is to multiply on both sides with X. So on the left-hand side, we will now have 1,034x, and on the right-hand side, 14983 plus x. And then we will take all the x's to the left. So then it becomes 1.034x minus 1. So we're left with 0,034x on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we're left with 14,983. If we then want to solve x, we will need to divide on both sides with 0,034. So 14,983 divided by 0,034, and that gives me a number of 440 676,47. Okay, then we go to our options. Okay, and this was still where none of the above was an option. Please tell me they have, in your assignments, they have removed that as options. There was a huge plea for last year that they don't put that into assignments and exams anymore. So hopefully that has been removed. But yeah, if that is how we would have worked it out. So in this instance, none of the above would be the correct one to select. Yeah, so hopefully that is just not part of the options anymore. Okay, let me also just, I assume everyone is on the WhatsApp group, but again, if you're not on our WhatsApp group yet, I have now posted the link to the WhatsApp group. So all that you need to do is just click on it, and you will be joining the group. Okay, cool. So let's go to the next question. So this question is looking at two parts. So again, hopefully these things are not happening in your exam, because most likely the two are linked to one another. But let's see what we need to work out. So Charlene intends to open a hairdressing salon and borrows the money from Aunt Amor. Charlene feels that she will only be able to start repaying a debt after 5 years. Again, sometimes one misses that because it is in words. All the other things is in numbers. So sometimes I also miss it when they say the 5 in a word and not in numbers. So then Charlene will then pay Aunt 35,000 every 6 months for 4 years. Money is worth 17.9% per year, compounded semi-annually. Okay, so a few things that, again, is sometimes misleading. So every 6 months and semi-annually is exactly the same thing. So they could have actually just told us 35,000 every 6 months, and this is compounded every 6 months. So they don't really need it to use the different words, because it actually means exactly the same thing. So sometimes they do put this in just trying to confuse us. Sometimes the same with quarterly. They might say every 3 months, or they might say quarterly. So those are just the things that one needs to look out for. Okay, so let's see, what is the present value of Charlene's debt at the time she starts paying back? Okay, so she said she will only be able to pay back in 5 years' time. But let's see. Charlene will then pay Aunt almost 35 for the next 4 years. So, and we need to work out present value. So let's first see if we can just write down everything that we need. So we've got the interest rate is 17.9. We've got the times per year. That is semi-annually or every 6 months, so it is 2 times a year. And for now, we're working with that 4 years because that is how she will pay it off. And then let's just see how much is she paying every 6 months. She's got a PMT of 35,000. Okay, so let's see what else do we need. Working out present value, so that's all that we need. Let me just get my calculator. So on your financial calculators, PMT of 35 or negative 35,000. What I normally include is just, and I do it for my own sanity, is just a future value of 0. Just if there was any other calculations that I made that my calculator does not remember that, you can also clear before you do the next sum, just because that we don't make a mistake of that. Interest rate is 17.9. We need to do it for 2 times a year for 4 years. So that is 8 periods. And then we will check what is our future value. And our future value is 194,079, 185, so we round it off to 19. Just be careful with this question because we're also talking here about the 5 years, but we only focusing on this component of the question for question 14. So we're only looking at what is that present value at the time she starts paying back the debt. Okay, so we are not yet looking at the full period. We're only now looking at that statement that says Charlene will pay back 35,000 every 6 months for 4 years, with a certain interest rate. So what will that present value be? Okay, so we're not looking into that component of anything to do with the 5 years yet. Okay, so our final answer for question 14 then is 194,079,19, which is option 2. You guys will also see, so when we got this on the calculator, it was 185. So you will not have an answer or an option where it is also 194,078.18. Okay, so they will not now be silly and give you a number where if you rounded it up or down, there will be both options for you. Okay, so that they will definitely not do. And sometimes also they would probably even round it off to the nearest rand and not sometimes include the cents, but they will definitely not give you an option where it is 0.18 and the option where it is 0.19. Okay, so the first one, we basically just looking at this 4-year period, working out what will be the present value. Okay, so then we get to question 15, and I just want to see, okay, so gonna do it also on this page. So question 15 then says, what is the amount of money that Aunt Almore lends Charlize? Or sorry, Charlene. Okay, so let's rewrite that just in the time frame. So what happened is she got the money. So that was for 5 years. Then she started paying back the money, and that was for the 4 years. And what we worked out was the present value at this stage before she started paying it off. Okay, so what they now asking us is this 194,079,19, what was that actually that she borrowed from the start? Okay, so they basically asking us, Charlene started paying that off over 5 years or 5 years from now. So what was that actual amount that she borrowed at this stage? So 5 years previous to when she started paying off. Okay, so the first thing that we will see here is she got interest that was calculated on it. So this amount 5 years ago will be less than 194. So I just normally check, okay, is there anything, okay, so nothing here is more than 194, so nothing that I can exclude. But then the things that I know is this 194, yes, it was the future value. Sorry, it was the present value of those 4 years, but this present value is actually for the 5 years, is this the future value? Okay, so this is the future value of that piece of money that she borrowed 5 years ago. So that's the future value. We will need to work out what is that present value at the beginning of a period. So that is what we need to work out. They tell us that the interest rate stays the same. So that's still 17.9. So that might be something that they can change in a question. So they could have said, but during that 5 years, interest rate was something different. So just be aware of it. It does not always mean it will be the same. It could have changed in that 5 years. The same with the payments per year. So again, we keep it as twice a year, semi-annually, or 6 months. But they could have also told us in the question that that might have been quarterly. So it does not need to be exactly the same. And then they told us it is for 5 years. So that is a period of 10 periods. Okay, so basically going back to our calculator, that 194,079.19, that now is our future value. Then interest rate stays exactly the same, the 17.9. The times per year stays exactly the same, that is twice per year. N changes from 4 to 5 years, and then because of that change, the number of periods, instead of the 8 that we had in the previous question, now we have 10, and then we can work out our present value, that is 82,358.16. Okay, so 82,358,16, which is option 1. Okay, so again, I think very important in this question was more around, we first need to work out what is that present value. That present value we work out through the information that was given here, where I said how much they will pay back, what interest rate, how many years, how many times a year. So we've got in question 14 our present value, and then we will change that present value in question 15 as what we will use for our future value, and then work back to get our present value for the 5 years. I really don't like these questions, so I'm hoping that in your assignments and your mock exam, there wasn't questions like this, because if you get question 14 wrong, you automatically get question 15 wrong, because then you would have used a different present value. So yeah, so I hope this wasn't in your assignments or in your mock exam the case where there was one question that then followed into the next one, because it nearly feels, because you're writing online multiple choice, the lecturer can't really see your sums and work with your the problem and things like that. So but please, if you guys have any assignments, any of the mock exams, that there's questions that you want me to look at, please put it on the WhatsApp group, and I will bring that into our slide pack tomorrow and on Saturday. I see there is one or two on the chat that I will already bring into tomorrow's conversation. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So again, very similar type of thing, where they give you information. Again, you nearly need to use both, or whatever you get in question 18, and use it in question 19 as well. So let's read it. Let's see what we then need to do for question 18. Again, they probably give us all the information already in question in that section, and we only need to maybe use some of it. So let's see. 3 years ago, Daniel borrowed 10,000 from Sarah on condition that he would pay her back in 6 years' time. Okay, so let's just say we are at this stage. 3 years ago, he borrowed 10,000, and that 10,000 he said he would pay back in 6 years' time. So basically, we're sitting with a now, 3 years into the future, he needs to pay it back. He borrowed it 3 years ago. Okay, so that is that first component that we have put on that time frame. So then let's see what else. Interest is calculated at 14.75%. So interest is 14.75%. Compounded quarterly. Okay, so now again, compounded quarterly, they might also use words like every 3 months. That's basically the two that they can use, quarterly or every 3 months. So we know now that how many times per year will it be? It will be 4 years because there are 4 quarters in a year. Then they say 6 months ago, he also borrowed 17,500 from her at an interest rate of 10.5%, compounded monthly. The loan will be paid back 3 years from now. Okay, so 3 years from now. But let's first see what they ask us in question 18 before we now write down everything. So what is the total amount that Daniel will owe Sarah 3 years from now? Okay, so that tells me we need to also add the 17,500. Okay, so let's do that in another color. So 6 months ago, he borrowed 17,500. Now that is suddenly at a different interest rate of 10.5%, and that is compounded monthly, so also a different times per year. And then we want to know this loan will be also paid back 3 years from now. So we want to know how much is that worth 3 years from now. Okay, so this one, we will need to make 2 calculations. We will need to do the green component, work out what that will be. Then we will need to work out the pink component or red component. And also then at that end, we will need to add the 2 together. So let's first do the green component. So we've got a present value of 10,000. That we know is being done at an interest rate of 14.75. So I will later just take that away because we'll probably use that space. We said it is for 4 times a year because it is quarterly. It's 3 plus 3 years, so that is 6 years. So that will give us 24 periods. And we will need to work out what is that future value. And so we will need to work out what is that future value. Okay, so nothing strange at this stage on the calculator. It is present value of 10,000. It is 14.75 interest rate. it is 4 times per year. I think the previous question we had 2 times per year, so that's for one thing we need to change. 4 times per year. It is for 6 years, so it will be 24 periods. And then our future value is 23,846,996. So that is actually probably rounding it off to 23,847. But let's just keep that for now. None of our answers is that because we still have a pink part that we also need to add to that. So the pink part, we've got a present value of 17,500. So we're doing exactly the same. We just need to use a bit of different information. The interest rate has changed now to 10.5%. We've got, instead of quarterly, now we've got a 12 times per year. We've got it as 6 months. 6 months is a half, so our number of years is 3.5. So I will need to multiply 12 by 3.5 because I don't know what that is. So we will have 42 periods, and then we can work out our present value for this one as well. So let me just take this away that we have enough space. Okay, so exactly the same as we did with the first component that we worked out. Now it is 17,500 as your present value. So we go through the same principles, but 10.5 interest rate, 12 times per year. So instead of 4, now it is 12, 3.5 years, which gives us the 42 periods. And then if we work out the future value, we get 25,231,73. So to get our total amount, we will need to plus the 2. So our total amount then will be the 23,231.73 plus 23,846.996. I'm just keeping it that way so that we round off now. 49,078,73. Okay, so let's just see where 49,078,73. Okay, so quite a long process because there are 2 components, and nearly what I said in the previous one, that they can change the periods and things. So that is what they did here, is they said that second investment or that second piece that she borrowed was a different time period, a different payments per year, different interest rates. So it did change a bit what we needed to put into the calculator, but exactly the same process to get to the 49,000. Okay, so we basically have answered that component of the 2 individual loans and what it ended up to be. So now they asking us to relook this what we did Daniel asked Sarah if he can reschedule his debt. So he's paying 18,000 now and the rest 2 years from now. Okay, so he's basically saying he's going to pay 18,000 now, and then he is going to pay the rest 2 years from now. Sarah agrees to this on condition that the interest rate for the new agreement starting now changes to 13.4%. So now it's not 10.5 or 14.75. Now it becomes 13.4% per year compounded half yearly. A compounded half yearly, it was in the previous one. So basically, how many times per year? It is now twice a year. So again, I could have said every 6 months. So what is the amount that Daniel must pay Sarah 2 years from now? Okay, so what is the amount that he needs to pay 2 years from now when it has accumulated 13.4% interest at twice a year? Okay, so that is for me quite a interesting question, because what we had is we had this, that is the now, so that is nearly this x, and this x is the same. So suddenly things have changed a bit. So we now need to change how we looked at that 10,000. We now need to look at and change the view of a 17,500. So basically what we will need to work out is that green component that we worked out over 6 years for 10,000. We now need to rework that out. So that 10,000, we're now working out just over the 3 years period, because that was for 3 years. So I'm just putting that, and we will work it out exactly the same terms as previous. So the 4 times per year. And we will work it out with that interest rate of 14.75. So we're going to work out nearly, rework that with just the years that have changed, so that we can get a value or future value here at x. Then we need to do exactly the same with that pink component, which was 17,500 over 6 months. Okay, so we are needing to change these numbers a bit. So let's do a green component first. So we will definitely make enough space. So that is for minus 10,000. The interest rate stays exactly the same with 14.75. The periods per year is still quarterly. The years is just much shorter. It is 3 years because we want to find out what it's worth now. So then our future value will definitely also be much smaller than the 23. So let's quickly redo that. So 10,000 present value, still 14.75 interest, 4 times per year for 3 years. That is 12 periods. And our future value then is 15,442.47. Again, not one there. Strange. I would have thought that they might give their option. Then let's do the pink component. So that is the 17,500. So again, our pink component will be definitely much less than 25,000 because it's only for 6 months. So the interest rate was still the same, 10.5. Our periods per year were 12 because it is monthly, but it was only for half a year. So that would only be 6 periods. This one was 12 periods. And then let's see what our future value is at that point X. So 17,500 minus, that's our present value, 10.5 interest, 12 times a year, but for only half a year, so that is 6 periods. And then our future value for this one is 18,439.08. Okay, again, I would have thought there is an option. Okay, so what we basically now did is to work out what the green is going to be now, what the pink is going to be now. So the value at point X now is the 18,439 plus the 15. Okay, so that is the now value is 33,881.55. Okay, so that is what X is now. There's actually that answer. So we now worked out what it is now, but when they say the amount that Daniel must pay Sarah 2 years from now, so we actually want to work out what is the value 2 years from now. Okay, so at the moment, the value is 13,881.55. He pays off 18,000. That is what they said, paying off 18,000 now. So at that point of X, paying off 18,000. So our new value that we are looking at this point is the 33,881.55 minus 18,000, which is 15,881.55. Okay, so that is 15,881.55. So that is basically the amount that we now need to work with. So let me do this a bit so that we can just make it all the same color, so that we now know that we're working with a blue component. So the blue component that we will need to work out is that will now be our present value. They told us there's a new interest rate of 13.4%. They told us it is now twice a year, and they told us it is 2 years from now. And so then we will basically need to work out what is our future value. Okay, so now we've got the present value is the 15,881. We change now the times per year again. The green component was 4 times a year. The pink component was 12 times a year. And now they changed it to twice a year. So lots of things that one needs to keep in mind. Then they say to us it's for 2 years, so we know that 2 years, 2 times a year, that gives us a period of 4 periods. Interest rate 13.4, so the interest rate also have now changed 3 times. So also important that the interest rate have changed, and then our future value that we're looking for is 20,584,99. Okay, so here was really a lot of work, and let's just see 20,584,99. Okay, this was it is death by sums in this one. We needed to work out the green component of the 3 years. We needed to work out the pink component of the 6 months. Then we needed to work out if we take away that 18,000 payment, and then we needed to work out another component. So luckily, question 18 and 19, we did not use any of the information in 18, in 19 again. I originally thought we would, but we didn't. But still, it is really a lot of exercise in here and a lot of things to do. So this session is recorded. I will load the recording on our WhatsApp group tonight with a presentation so that you can go through it again, because it is quite a lot of work. So I think question 19, if you get something like that in the exam, that is minimum 5 to 10 minutes of work on a question like question 19, because you needed to basically do 3 sums and make 100% sure that all 3 of them is correct, because very easily one can get different numbers. So quite important question, like a question 19. Okay, so let's go to the next set of questions, and see what we need to do here. Okay. Okay, that was exactly the same, so I did a duplicate. Okay, so let's see question 20 and what they ask us in question 20. Also, I think important for you guys is that, and you might have seen it in your mock exam already, they don't start off with study unit 2 and work through, and then your last questions is study unit 8. So it is a bit randomized as well. So you might get a question of compound interest, then suddenly you get a net present value, then you get a stats question, then you get simple interest, then might be simple discount. So it is mixed up in your exam as well. So just be prepared for that, that you can now work on nearly 2 or 3 questions on present values and compound, and then suddenly you get something a bit different. So the accumulated amount rounded to the nearest thousand of semi-annual payments of 5,500 for 10 years into an account earning 8.9% interest per year compounded monthly equals. Okay, so let's highlight a few things. So semi-annual payments, that is twice a year, but when your interest is compounded monthly. So that already tells us that we can't just now suddenly go to our financial calculator and punch in the numbers, because we first need to change our interest rate, so that it aligns with the semi-annual payments. Okay, so that is the first thing that we need to do. So we first need to change our interest rate. For that, we've got the formula that is also in your study guide. So let's just, and I am also writing the M's and N's so that we can just make 100% sure that we align all the numbers and don't get confused along the way, because then we will make a mistake in our calculation. Okay, so important, the N reference the semi-annual, the M reference the interest. Okay, so semi-annual payments, so the N is the 2, the M is the compounded monthly, so M is the 12. So just important that we make sure that we get that right. And then our interest rate was 8.9%, so that is 0, oh, let me just rewrite this, that we just have a bit of more space. 0.089 divided by 12. Okay, so that's the first thing we now need to do is change the interest rate. So they give us the interest rate in monthly. We need to align it with our payment system, which is semi-annually. Also important, we're not going to change the payment system that is semi-annually to monthly. So just important, the important thing here is to change the interest rate. Okay, so now let's hope my calculator is able to do this. 0.089 divided by 12 gives us 0.0074. Okay, so my calculator is not the best in doing fractions, so I need to then plus that by 1, then to the power of 6, and so that will give me 1,0453, which I will subtract 1 from. So let me just complete these and multiply by 2. Okay, so 1.0453 minus 1 is 0.0453 times 2 is 0.0907. And if we multiply it by 100 to get a percentage, we get 0.0667%. Okay, so that is now the interest rate that we will use. Then the other thing was that we've got a PMT of 5,500. Then we've got semi-annually, so again, just how many times per year is the 2. Then let's just see for how long, because I didn't see a number, the accumulated amount, okay, the 10 years. So n is equal to 10, so that gives us 20 periods. And what do they want, the future value or the present value? So the accumulated amount of that, so we want the future value because they said to us the accumulated amount. Okay, so we've got the interest rate of 9,0667. We've got the payments every 6 months, which is 5500. Then we've got it for twice a year because it is semi-annually for 10 years, which gives us 20 periods. And then we can say future value. And hopefully I get it right. 173,146. They told us to the nearest 1,000. So 173,000. Okay, so luckily it is there. This one is way too close. So very easy to miss that and pick 172 because that's very close to 173. So again, if one quickly run through it in the exam and you just see the beginning of 17, just again be careful. Normally it's not this close to one another, but very easy to make that mistake in picking 172 instead of 173. Okay. Okay, so this one was different where we first needed to change our interest rate because we are working here with different periods. So our interest rate was a monthly interest rate versus our payments that was semi-annually. So we needed to align the two, else we can't work with it. So again, it is one of those that it's very difficult, that one needs to just make 100% sure the things are aligned with one another. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So the next question, let's see if there's any link. Okay, so no, this is stats. So we will need to work out a regression line. Okay, so what is important in this question nearly for me is how you guys go about working this out. So and it will also be important to understand, and I haven't seen it, are you guys allowed to use Excel, or is it only that you can use the calculator? So that's the first thing. Are you guys allowed to use Excel, or are you only allowed to do okay, cool. So it is open book. You guys, which are you're not using Iris as a invigilator tool, or are you? Just want also to make 100% sure about that. Poodle, awesome. Thank goodness. Okay, so I'm going to show you quickly how to do this on Excel, but please, in the chat, if you don't have access to Excel, so if you're writing this on your cell phone, the exam, and you don't have access to Excel, let me know what calculator you're going to use so that I can just get you the steps how to do this on your calculator as well. So if you have a HP, let me know. If you have a Casio, let me know on the chat. If you have the what's the other one? Casio, Sharp, and HP. So just let me know if you're not going to use Excel. I'm going to share with you guys the Excel spreadsheet as well, that you can use it. But if you're using any of the calculators, just let me know in the chat so that I can just get you the steps how to do that. Okay, so quickly want to show you how we're gonna come on, how we're gonna do it in Excel. So we've got the X value, we've got the Y value. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's strange, but that's fine. 45, 250, 250, 175, 125. Okay, so cool. So I will just see where I can get the steps. Then I will write down the steps for you guys as well. Okay, so we're getting this information, and all that they want is we need to get the straight line. So there's two things that is important for the straight line. So that is our M, or slope, that we need to get. And the other one is the Y intercept. Okay, so that's the two main things we need to get for a straight line, is those two things. Okay, so in Excel, if you're going to use it, there is a slope function, and there is an intercept function. The most important thing is, when we look at this, is we need to, when we use Excel, just check the Y's for Excel they want first. Okay, so, and then the X's. So that does make a big difference on our final answer. So when I share some of the calculators methods, some calculators want you to put in the X's first, then the Y's. Some of it want to put in XY, 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 XY until you have put in all the data points. So that's why it is nearly important just to let me know, so that we just make 100% sure that when you get a question like this, you also be able to use the calculator that you have. Okay, then intercept, exactly the same. There is a intercept function, and again, intercept also wants the Y first, and then your X's second in that formula. Okay, so now you guys can see, okay, we've got a slope of 8.5. So if I look at these answers, okay, it's not that, my slope must be 8.5. And then if I look at my intercept, there it is as 135, and that is option 3. Okay, so there's, unfortunately, with this information, what they've given us, there is no other way to do it than to put it into Excel, or to put it into your calculator. Okay, so I will share this spreadsheet in any case for you guys, that especially on regression lines, that you can use it. Okay, so I will share it on our WhatsApp group tonight as well. So just again, I know some of you are not on the WhatsApp group. If you're not on the WhatsApp group yet, just click on that link in the chat, and you will automatically be added onto the WhatsApp group, and then I will share everything on there tonight. What I will also do for you guys is, since there are a few new students on the group, I will also just reshare my YouTube channel, and you can go onto that YouTube channel, and there is, I think, nearly 2 or 3 years of videos that I've posted there on 1630, that you guys can also go through and look at, and things like that. Okay, so let's see what is the next question for us to look at. Let me just add one thing. So if they are also asking you to work out the R correlation, so just again, I will also add that to the steps on the calculator, but if I want you to work out the R's at some stage from this data, again, there is a nice function that is correl for correlation. And here we actually don't mind whatever is first or second. And then you can work out the correlation. On this, I just also quickly want to show you guys something. So the slope and the correlation will always be the same sign. So slope and correlation will always be same sign. Okay, so that is just something that you guys can use as a guideline nearly. So if we now needed to work out the correlation in, say, a second question, and now suddenly you have negative correlations, you can nearly eliminate that because we know the slope is positive. So if the slope is positive, your correlation also needs to be positive. So I don't think that is something that we have covered before. So I just wanted to show you guys that as well. So if that comes up any place in one of the questions on regression, then at least we have covered it. I will just also look at other options and see if we don't have anything else on there. Okay, so we've now done net present values. We've done a lot of compound interest nearly, where we looked at loans. We looked at a bit of stats. Now we're nearly going back into the first part of the study unit and looking at simple interest. And again, why I include it here again is because, like it is going to be in your exam, you might get a lot of difficult questions, and then suddenly they throw in a simple interest, and then it is like, oh, where the heck is this nearly coming from? Because again, one is so programmed with some of these questions and things that you feel like it, and let's say it nearly in a sense of you feeling it can't be this easy nearly, because suddenly you had a lot of those difficult questions, and then suddenly you get a simple interest question and you're like, okay, but where's the catch in this one? So let's look at this simple interest and let's see if there is a catch, or what do we need to look at. So seems like there is a catch. So on 21 January 2019, Benang invested an amount in an account earning 6.5% simple interest. If she has 1,200 available on 9 May, how much then the amount that she invested on 21 January was? Okay, so definitely a bit of a different question that we need to look at. So simple interest, and then with a simple interest, it is a counting of days question. Okay, so we need to basically look at this and say, we need to know how many days are between 21 Jan and 9 May. And then from there, we will need to work out the rest. So first, we will use that table at the back to say what is 9 May, what is 21 Jan. Okay, so let me see where is that table, because I'm definitely not able to just work this out in my head. So let's see, where is that table? Appendix C. And again, it is open book, so you guys are allowed to use Appendix C. You mustn't, please don't try now to count this a different way or anything. So 9 May is day 129. 21 Jan is day 21. So the number of days is that we subtract those two. So we're working with 108 days. So then we basically gonna use the simple interest formula. So simple interest formula that looks like this. And let's see. So Benang invested an amount in an account earning 6.5%. So that is 0.065. If she has 1,200 available on 12 May, so we know what the future value was. So we need to work out basically what is the present value. Okay, so this one, simple interest, we can't use calculators. So we will need to first work out that component, and then we will need to see what the value of P is. Already, if I'm looking at my answers, present value is always less than the future value. So if my future value is 1,200, I can't have a present value of 1,223. Okay, so that just can't work. So let's first see what this component is. So again, my calculator not great, so I first need to say 108 divided by 365. I think the Sharps and the Casio, you can put that into a fraction. Mine can't, so I get 0.2959. I will need to multiply that by the interest rate of 0.065. That answer I will need to plus by 1, so I get P is times 1.0192 is equal to 12,000, sorry, 1,200. So to work out P, I will need to say 1,200 divided by 1.0192. Okay, and that answer will give me P is equal to 1177.36. 1177.36. Okay, some of these flip is very close to one another. 1176, 1177.43. So most likely, if we did have it somehow as 109 days or 107 days, that might nearly influence that answers. So this component is nearly the critical one to get that right, because if it is off by 1 day more, you will probably get that. If you're off by 1 day less, you will probably get that. So again, very important nearly to make sure that that is correct in this one. Okay, so let's look at the next question. Simple interest. So let's see what we have here. The accumulated amount that Zondu will receive after 38 months if she deposits 13,300 into account where money is worth 11.35% per year, compounded every 2 months. Okay, so now we're going into compound interest. So with compound interest, we can use our financial calculator. So we've got a present value of the 13,300. We've got an interest rate of 11.35%, compounded every 2 months. So that is every 2 months. So the periods per year is not 2. So just don't make that mistake that I now nearly made. It's every 2 months. So it is 6 times per year. Then the accumulated amount that Zander will receive after 58 months. So let's see how many years is that. So 58 divided by 12 is, that's a weird one, 1,667. So how many periods is that? 19 periods. And that is quite a weird one to work with. And then we want to know what, again, is the accumulated amount, so the future value. So you will also pick up in the questions, they seldom tell us or use the words work out the future value. So much more they talk about accumulated amount at the end, or what she will receive. So that's more the language. So not a lot they talking about what is the future value that she will receive. So they talk a lot about that accumulated amount. The same when we look at when they talked about, yeah, what was the initial amount, or yeah, where they talked about the present value. Also, never did they say what is the present value. They say what was it at the beginning, or what is. So again, nearly very important how to look for those things in the exam as well, because I like talking about present value, future value, because that's the things that we know is on our calculator. But it's not always that easy just to spot it in the question. So they very seldom say work out the future value or work out the present value. So we need to get that accumulated value or accumulated amount, which is actually our future value. So first thing, 13,300 is our present value, then 11.35% is our interest. So for 6 times a year, because it is every 2 months, then it is for 3.1667 years. So it should be 19 periods. And then to work out the future value, I get 18988,31. 18988. There's lots of eights. Let me just 18988. 188888988. Okay. Option 5. But again, sure, with all those eights and things, very easy, even in the exam, to make a mistake in just looking at some of these numbers and maybe picking the wrong 18. But this one, again, every 2 months, they could have rather said 6 times a year. So just also look at how they do the times per year. Sometimes, again, and you guys saw when I first read that, I wanted to say times per year 2 because I read 2 months, but in actual fact, it is 6. Let's just, for interest, I just want to see if we said twice a year, if it would have had any of those options. I probably not, but let's just see. Oh my word. Okay. So if we actually did it 2 times a year instead of 6, that would have been our answer, 18865,83. Shucks. Okay, so again, I think that nearly points to very important that some of these things they put in to also confuse you. And as I said, when I first read that, I wanted to write down 2. If I did, there would have been an answer for me. And that is, again, just the scary thing. I would have said 2, I would have gotten an answer. I would have thought I am correct. So just be really, really careful when you guys do this, that you don't make rather do the mistakes now than in the exam. Okay, so let's do this one as the last one for tonight. So let's first read. So Robert invested 15,000 in an account that paid 10.5% simple interest and later on received the accumulated 1,893 rand and 75 rand. What is the number of months that Robert had his money invested, rounded to 1 decimal place? Okay, so simple interest, we need to get to n in this one. So let's just write down the simple interest formula. So let's then simplify a bit before we start. So we need to get to that n. Okay, so first of all, I will on both sides divide by P. So if I divide by P, this one will fall away and we will have S divided by P. So then we have this, then I will get rid of the 1. So I'm just going to write it here. S divided by P minus 1 is equal to Rn. And then to have n on its own, we will need to divide by r on both sides. So our formula will now look like this. Okay, so let's see. So we've got S is the future value. We've got that as 1893,75. Present value, we had that as the beginning, how much he invested. So that is 1,500. That we will subtract 1 from, and then we will say, okay, that is divided by simple interest of 0,105. Okay, so let's see what we get. So 1893.75 divided by 1,500 minus 1 is 0,2625, and that divided by 0,105 is equal to 2.5. Okay, so now suddenly we see, there's 2.5. Okay, so that is 2.5 years. They want the answer in number of months. So we need to multiply that by 12 to get the months, which is 50 months. Okay, so again, very important here is that yes, they give us the years. Again, it might be that we're rushing, we get the 2.5, we go through, we see 2.5, in the exam we pick it, we go to the next question and nearly forgotten that they said, okay, but hang on, we don't want it in years, we want it in number of months. And that number of months then is the 2.5 years times 50. Okay, so again, simple interest that sometimes it we feel it should be an easier question, but then they throw in these nearly nasty things. Let's call a spade, a nasty one, because again, it's different if they don't put in the 2.5. But very easy for one to make this mistake of saying 2.5 and go for that. The same with the previous one. Here, that every 2 months, again, it just throws one off because, again, this is just, if you look at it, it's supposed to be a simple compound interest question, but that makes it that you can make a mistake. And the scary thing is, if you make that mistake, there is a question or there is an answer. The same if you look at this one. So if you make a mistake with the days, there are options for you as well. So unfortunately with 1630, it's your answers is not clear cut in the sense of there's one answer and all the rest you can see is wrong. There is normally, as we look at it, the other options you can also get to by just making or reading something wrong. And that for me is sometimes they do a lot of those things where in the reading you might read it wrong and then you get the answer wrong. So that is also nearly important as we now do a bit more prep, that we also see just where they try to catch you guys out. So we will have another session tomorrow, the same time, 5:30. Then we will have a session, our normal that we used to have on Saturdays, that 11:30 slot. We'll have a session on that. And then we will have a session if you guys want to join on Monday before you write on Tuesday, I think. Um, so we will definitely have that slot as well, that we just make 100% sure that we've covered everything. So if you want again to join that session on Monday, please do. You can put onto our WhatsApp group after we have that session on Saturday, but now as well. But after that session on Saturday, and you have questions, put it on the WhatsApp group. I will put it into this presentation, that we look at it on Monday evening, then that you just have that clarity that you have covered everything. Okay, guys, have a good evening. We will definitely check in tomorrow again. And then please, if you have any questions that you want me to go through from your assignments, from your mock exam, from previous exam papers, please send it. Else you guys see we still have another 20 other questions that I have for us to work through. But please, if you have other questions, just pop it into the chat, and I will put it into a presentation, and we will work it out. Okay, so thanks, guys, for joining tonight. I will, in the next hour or so, paste or load the